Welcome back, everybody, to another great episode here with the Sound the Board with Matt and Diego. As you know, we've just gone over other topics, and today we have another fun one for you. Especially if you work in the corporate spaces with us, this is going to be your best friend. So, dosage of how much fitness is enough, or at least meets the requirements for us for the week, a month, years. We'll break it down as we go along, but usually we'll talk by weeks. Now, Matt, usually what do you recommend your clients? Let's start with just our clients and then we'll jump over to general and yada, yada, yada as we go along.
Yeah. So for my clients, I think I shock a lot of them because it's such good news. I'm telling them you do not have to live in the gym. Most busy professionals and people in general can get great results with really just 2 to 3 workouts a week. And a lot of that just has to do with the proper structure. Um, yes, every day we want some sort of movement, but when we talk about getting into the gym, and I think we might want to quantify that first and foremost of what does that mean when I say go to the gym? Um, that doesn't mean necessarily your daily steps. Can you get your steps in the gym? Of course. But I'm more referring to either like a cardio based workout or a strength training workout. Really predominantly strength training. And for that, you can get excellent results and honestly, optimal results, which is the word that gets thrown around probably too much, but optimal results for 3 times a week. It has to do with the focus. So I don't know if you agree with that. As you guys know, audience, we do not speak about this beforehand because we kind of want it raw. Like I want to know if Diego agrees with what I'm saying or if he disagrees.
And as always, I am gonna 110% disagree. No, I'm kidding. I agree with that too. Usually, when I tell my clients, the only difference of mine with yours is I believe you said 3 times a week. I only give them 2 times a week, but those depending on how aggressive our workouts are, obviously from that two can move to three, and then usually that's where I keep my clients is, hey, we're gonna get, as you say, to go to the gym, but to me it's just exercise wherever it's at. If you're at home, if you're with me in my apartment, if you're at the gym, we just have to do strength training twice a week. And in which way we strength train, for me, it's mostly kettlebells. We do twice a week. We go kettlebells, and we kind of combine strength cardio into one as we go along. But usually that's where I find my clients to have like the perfect balance of I'm not burning them out, but they're still getting good results in because in those 2 sessions, I do want to make sure I'm very clear with everybody. We are kind of pushing it like we're challenging the body. So, in the word optimal, as we throw it around here, every time you hear the word optimal come in this chat today, make sure you take a drink. That's going to be the fun game we're going to do. I'm kidding. But yeah, we do pretty. I would say on the scale of seven, on the intense rate 1 to 10, we at least are at the seven range. So when I tell people twice a week, that twice a week is pushing the body instead of just like going to the gym and moving weights around. So I want to make sure everybody understands the difference.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point because you have to train hard enough to elicit results and make a change to your body. So with that said, you got to push and you got to make the body change by putting an effort. But where that seven is such a great number is because while we want to push, we don't want to redline and get ourselves to a point where now everything that we're doing becomes counterproductive. So it is a bit of a balancing act. And this is where having the right structure and the right setup is really going to be everything. And whatever your modality is, so as you folks may or may not know, like Diego loves kettlebells. Kettlebells are great. Just based on we have state of the art gym here at WWE where we have all these amazing machines and barbells and things and that. But when it breaks down to like the movement patterns that a person is going to go through, whether they're using free weights or machines or kettlebells, there's really 5 movement patterns that are happening. You've got your squat, your hinge, your push, your pull, and your rotation. And what I'd like to go through, Diego, just in a minute, is just kind of like an example of how these folks can kind of set that up. So it's like, okay, I got to get in 3 days a week. Well, what would that look like? Well, if you're doing 3 strength workouts a week, we do want to focus on getting the most bang for our buck. So let's say that day one, let's say you do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That first exercise, you probably want to do some sort of a squat variation, a squat variation followed by a row. So a pulling exercise. That can be a horizontal row, that can be a machine row, that can be a kettlebell row, that can be any sort of row where we're pulling the scapula back and we're working our back muscles. And then your third exercise could be like a press movement, an overhead press or a horizontal press, or depending on time, you could do both. And then a core exercise. And that could really just be 4 or 5 exercises for the day, and you're good. But what's going to make those effective and work is there has to be intensity behind those movements. There has to be intensity, and that intensity has to be tempered by excellent form. And if you don't know if your form is excellent, that's where a trainer can be beneficial. That's where taking a video of your lifts, not to put on just social media and be silly, which is, can happen, but just really to check your own form and say, does this look the way I want it to look? And that's going to make your training much more effective. So I'll just run quickly through like a day 2. So on day 1, we had our squat, row, press, and core. On day 2, we could do a hinge. We could do another pull. We can go into a lunge. So maybe some unilateral work, one leg at a time. And then, some core finish there. And then on our day 3, I would do something like a squat variation. Again, another row, a lot of rowing. And for folks that work in an office setting, any sort of pulling is going to be so important because we all sit where, if you guys aren't watching it, I'm leaning forward, right? We've got like that tech neck. We want to open up the chest and keep everything nice and open. Yeah, we want to create space, and pulling exercise is really going to help with that. Then you can go, squat, row, another press variation. And then also, I love loaded carries. So carrying something heavy, you're always going to need to do that. And guys, these sessions can be anywhere between 35 to 45 minutes. Properly laid out, proper intensity, you're getting a great workout in that is effective and borderline optimal in 30 to 45 minutes.
Another drink.
Another drink. Everyone drink your water and electrolytes.
A really good point, especially because I was going to bring it up as well, is you going through the patterns. But one thing I want to make sure people understand that Matt provided is he showed full body days every single time that he worked out. And one of the key things he said was 35 to 45 minutes you could do. So when we bring out like, oh, what's the minimum amount of exercise you need? People think it's like, oh, how? Because at least this is what's provided in educations. Like you need 120 minutes or something like that. So most people think time. How much time do I need at the gym? But we're talking about a different thing. How much workload or volume we put in these days to match up, meaning how many exercises you put. So let's say, for example, again, there's most people understand a chest day, and you give 5 chest exercises of that day. What we did is we made sure that muscle was not missed with 3 days or 2 days because Matt gave 1, or maybe he gave 2 chest exercises that day, maybe not back to back, but separated. Like he gave maybe a hinge, a chest press, and he comes back later on and gives another chest accessory. So the volume of what you needed to do was all met in that time and that week that we worked. It just didn't come all at once. So I think that's also a very good thing that he brought up was how he structured the workout, because those movement patterns we do focus on because that's mostly day-to-day living is why we use those movement patterns. You're squatting every time that you probably pick something up. I mean, at least me in Costco, I have not used telepathic energy to pick something up. I tried. I focused hard, but eventually I had to use my muscles. I'm like, frick. So those things that we put in is why the reason we chose these exercise patterns is because that's what's going to be optimal in the real world. But
it's going to be optimal in the real world, and it's also going to yield the best results because you do not want to annihilate a muscle group. Contrary to popular belief, once you have that minimum effective dose, once you create the stimulus for that muscle to grow in that workout, everything after that is just going to accumulate fatigue. It's not necessarily going to necessitate or create growth. So this idea that you have to now put something into such a position where it's sore for it to develop, it's really not true. Now, what you do also is when you just have a few movement patterns like these, when I do my squat, because I know I don't have 17 leg exercises after, well, what's naturally going to happen? I'm going to be able to give a lot more to that leg exercise and up the intensity to make it much more effective. Whereas if I had, a piece of paper and it was like leg day, I'm going to do squats, Bulgarians, leg extensions, Nordic curl. Like you're tired just looking at it. So the intensity that you can give to each one of those movement patterns makes it, again, I don't want people to misconstrue that we are just saving people time here. Yes, this will save you time, but this is also a more effective way to train.
Absolutely 100% true. That's one of the reasons I give those full body days to my clients, and I give them 2 days because those in 2 days, for example, as Matt says, you make something sore, right? You do a chest day and you're sore. Most people don't have another same muscle day. They have to wait like 5, 6, 7 days until they go back to that day. As for your chest, probably recover 2 days after, and you're good to go, and you're just neglecting, and that's a lot of progress you could be making. But as you go hard in one exercise, and you went hard that Monday, and you have another chest exercise on Wednesday, you probably recover and you go the same amount of intensity, just like Matt mentioned, which is going to be more beneficial in the long run, not only performance but recovery wise as well. Because if I murdered it, as you said, 7 days and just killed my legs, I probably need a lot rest. If I did one squat, all right, I probably could rest up maybe 1 day, two max, but I'll be ready to go. As for some people, they're like, oh no, I just did leg day. I needed a lot of time to rest up. And now we're neglecting a movement pattern that could be progressed. That's maybe 2 days, 1, 2 days after. That's also
Yeah,
why the full body training is so great for everyone.
it also, doesn't hinder your life. I mean, who wants to have an existence where you go do your leg workout and then you can't walk for 2 days? It's like, you got stuff you have to do. You want to play with your kids. You got, outside activities you got to do. You need to be able to move. Now, that's not to say soreness won't happen, because I'm sure people are listening to this going, hey, I've been sore. I can walk a few days. Especially when you do a new exercise, or let's say you haven't worked out in a while and you do legs, like, yeah, you're going to be sore. That happens. But the point is, if you're feeling sore after every single workout without fail, then I would tell you that there is something there that you need to address in terms of your programming. So we want to be very intelligent. There really is a balancing act and a science that goes into this. That's not just about just stacking exercises.
That's why AI will never take our jobs.
Right.
But yes, those movement patterns, those full body days are going to be your best friend, especially when you're trying to get the right amount of dosage for fitness that you need in a busy week schedule that you have. So if you can all escape for 5 to 6, 7 days of exercise, even though I would never recommend 7 days, you can at least try to minimize the time you work out. So if it's 2 to 3, if you put full body days, those benefits are going to be great. And it's almost like nearly you're working out 7 days a week in a sense, because those days are that intense. You're getting the same amount of benefits within those days, and you're like, wow. So nothing is really being sacrificed.
Nothing is being sacrificed. And if I could just make a quick point, Diego, I think that,
Yeah.
if people are listening to this and they're on, let's say, a weight loss journey, they want to lose weight. The mind might think, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, so I have to lift more. And what that does is that it's a little bit short sighted, because you're not thinking about the effect that has. Yes, you're exercising more and you're moving more there, but what you're also doing is now you might potentially ramp up that appetite. So then you'll see a lot of people that are like, I'm so hungry all the time. Well, what does your training look like? Well, I train 5, 6 days a week. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder you're hungry all the time. You're in a caloric deficit. You're working out more. You're doing too much on top of that. And what's happening is you're having that rubber band effect where you're making weight loss so much harder for you. So I would make the argument for anybody, really any situation, I can make the play that 2 to 3 days is going to be beneficial. If I'm trying to add lean muscle tissue, I can go 2 to 3 days. I would probably lean more towards 3 days, honestly. But if I'm trying to lose weight, and this is something that I deal with on a daily here, where it's like, I need to be in the gym more. I'm like, no, that's what you think. But in reality, as long as you're strength training 2 to 3 times a week, like Diego and I are saying, and you're getting your steps in, which is like the next thing we can talk about, you're going to be in a really, really good place. One, because we want to regulate output, but we also want to regulate our appetite. And if we train too hard too frequently, especially from a weight loss perspective, you're going to be putting yourself at a disadvantage. And it's going to be very hard to stick to your nutritional regimen.
And yeah, that's a great point because the next point I was going to bring up was because I did say I do make people work out with me 2 days a week. That's just with me. Now, the outside after that is walking or accessory or enhancement tools is what I call them. So, meaning my clients, when they work out with me twice a week, they have permission to go do something else outside of it for another day. If it's a Pilates class, yoga, steps always if they can, running if they want to go outside because Chicago is about to turn great to the weather. But whatever it is, a boxing class, one does a boxing class, which is 100% fine. I was like, absolutely. So walking would be one of those things as well. It's like, hey, get these steps in if you're definitely doing 2 to 3 because we don't want to tire you out, but there's still a lot of activity in those days that can happen on the days we're not working together.
Absolutely. That's such a great point. When we say, like, if you're not working out with your trainer, you're not working out there. It was deemed for years, we call it active recovery. And basically what that means
Yeah.
is like you're still active. So you're not moving, but that you're still doing anywhere between 8 to 12,000 steps. And while I do think people should shoot for somewhere between maybe 7,500 to 12,000 steps, I'd also tell the person listening to this is find where you are and then go from there. So if I say 8 to 12,000 steps and you're doing 2,000 steps a day, well, then I don't need you 4 times in what you're doing right now. Would that be great? Yes. Is that realistic? Probably not. So just try to add 2,000 steps to that. Get in. You don't have to get an Apple Watch. You could if you want. I have one. They're great, but you could just get a simple pedometer just to see what your activity. Oh, I didn't realize I was taking 3,000 steps today. Let's bump that up. Let's go to 5,000 steps a day. Let's average that for a month, and then we can work our way up with the ultimate goal to really be somewhere between 8,000 to 12,000 steps. Because I'm telling you, you can do that in addition to strength training 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. You're going to look and feel fantastic.
Amen. Can't preach it any harder. But yeah, definitely that outside activity. Now, although my clients hate when I say active recovery, active rest, because I use it all the time in supersets. I was like, technically, I'm giving you rest. It's called active rest. We're hitting a different muscle.
Right.
The other muscle's recovering. And they're like, that's such a lie. I was like, to each their own. But yes, that days that you do outside, because right now the dosage that we're doing of fitness is the strength training portion. So I was like, that's what we're talking about. But there's all those other days that make sure I'm not wasted. So I have clients that I have to text, calls like, hey, did you get your steps in? Hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do that? So just because we're not strength training does not mean we should just be stationary because we're trying to move the body, feel better. And
Yeah, you got to
motion is
move.
lotion.
Motion is lotion, yeah. And if you guys don't know, if you go onto your phone, most people, if you have an Android, I'm sure you have it as well. But on the Apple, if you go to your Apple Health, you can literally see what your steps average is. Take a look at it. It can be eye opening for you. And we really want to be somewhere between 7,500 and 12,000. It's just that you take a little bit of an audit of yourself, where you at. And again, if it's really low, then just try to up it. Just, hey, I'm going to make this goal, and then slowly but surely, because it's more so that it's more about consistency always than intensity. You're not trying to crush yourself. The goal is just to show up every single week. I'd much rather, and not just my opinion. I mean, I think factually, like 3 workouts per week for a year is going to destroy 6 workouts per week for 3 weeks, followed by quitting. And what we see a lot is people that feel like they have to make up for lost time, which is a false belief, but they think they have to make up for lost time and crush themselves, and then they just bury themselves in the ground. So stick to what you can manage every single week for a year, and 2 to 3, per week is going to really be that sweet spot.
And less is definitely more in this challenge of getting yourself active. So always make sure you take that into account. Less is more. If we can preach anything, hopefully be that. Uh, when it comes to obviously working out steps, get as many as you can, as much as you can, never stop. I usually, the nice part of this, what I'm seeing is a lot of people are now having corporate gyms in their office,
Mm.
as as you can see how we're employed. And the nice thing is what I'm seeing in that corporate gym is people are really taking advantage during lunch times, breaks, or even meetings where they'll get on the treadmill and just walk and take meetings. So as long as you
Yeah.
can find little tricks here and there to get those steps up, yeah, you're gonna be set up for a lot of success coming up.
Yeah, see if you can get a standing desk, and then even better, see if you can get one of those standing desks with like a treadmill, and just walk. Like a little, become that person. And I'll tell you something, it rubs off on people around you. Because at first people are like, what is this guy doing? And then all of a sudden, person over there, Bob in the corner has a walking pad. And then, the other person, like it creates this awesome momentum and everybody's doing it. And then it becomes effortless to hit your steps. Then you're going to have to listen to Diego and I talk about it because you'll just be doing it by proxy. Um, you just have to find ways. Like I want to make it to a point where those after lunch walks are as commonplace as people, in the 50s used to do smoke breaks.
In the perfect world, we'll get there. We will get there. If it
We'll
starts
get
with
there.
this
Hey, what are you
podcast,
doing? I'm doing my post. Yeah, that's right. This podcast has to spread. And it's just like post walk, post meal walk. What are you doing?
mhm,
Well, of course you're doing that. That's what we all do. Because it
yeah,
makes us feel great.
and that is definitely one of those things where, again, the best thing that I believe, in my opinion, Matt said, consistency. As long as we can be consistent with it, not in intensity. Sure, it has a time and place, but consistency. That's gonna be your, the magic right there.
Yeah.
But
In corporate, I would just finish with this, there's KPIs. And your KPI, if you track your health and your fitness like a KPI, that's how what gets measured gets managed. And if you put it down and you're like, I'm going to go 3 days a week, and then you map that out on the calendar where those are going to be, just like it's a meeting, now it becomes non-negotiable to yourself. And then it becomes a system. And when you develop a system, then you can sustain. And now you've got a lifestyle that enforces being healthy and making really good choices.
hopefully everybody today wrote everything we said down. If not, that's okay because this will be posted on our channel soon. Thank you all again for listening to us talk about another great topic. We can't wait to see you again next week. As always, any questions you have, please throw them down. We will get to them when we can. We'll make sure we respond to them. But for now, that was our episode, and hopefully it was very helpful. And we'll try to be as more helpful as we can going along. Other than that, everyone have a great week and have your steps in hopefully by the end of the weekend.
All right. Bye bye, everybody.